Of course, I've put time in this book, I've strained my liver. You'll see how much if you watch this video to the end for your entertainment. So please leave a like on this video and maybe subscribe if you like it. So let's get going. Yeah, I'm complaining a lot and I was just proven wrong about something. In this chapter, chapter 28, as Drake, Crawford and Kiger are returning back to their base, they stumble upon a broken down truck of the ANA, the Afghan National Army, and Crawford's like, shit, here we go again. But Drake's spider sense is tingling because he remembered the day before where Anya pulled the same trick. That's foreshadowing for you kids. He is like, this is an ambush, and right on point, one of Kuras's men is on the truck. He's using an anti-armor rifle or something, not a rifle, it's a machine gun basically, an anti-armor machine gun, starts firing, and Drake just steps on the gas and evades, rushes forward, he evades the truck, but he crashes the jeep into a canal. Kuras, who is of course watching the entire scene, orders his men to move in and kill Drake and his people because this is his one chance to take vengeance. So Ryan, Kiger and Crawford are in a tight spot because Afghani rebels are coming in with AK-47s and they just have pistols. Kiger shoots one of them down, of course. Ryan is unable to do so, and up to this point Ryan has done zero shooting, or he hasn't done anything impressive up to this point. It's only Kiger taking shots. So yeah, good luck for an action hero. And they're in tight spot. Kuras is ready to see them dying, but he's surprised to find out that they're rescued by Cunningham and his men, the mercenaries, and Drake is starting to be, well, Anya told me they're the enemy, but they saved me, so this makes no sense. Maybe Anya is the enemy. Yeah, that's an interesting twist. I mean, I have to give it to the author that he puts a nice red herring, I guess. I mean, I'll tell you, I'm pretty certain this happens and it's not happening at this point. So yeah, maybe that's interesting. And I just stumbled upon the beginning of the next chapter, and yes, Kuras is working for Horizon because he's surprised to see that Horizon men just saved Drake. And also he has a master plan to take over Afghanistan when the US forces leave, when Obama comes into power. Yeah, right. We all know how this went. Alright, it's a bit later. I had my lunch. I still haven't brought any alcohol here because I do feel it's still too early. And alright, you may think that, okay, this guy woke up and he only got through 100 pages, so he has slow reader. No, I'm just doing other things in my day. I'm just staying home reading a book, alright? I think that if I didn't take the time off to do other stuff or make these videos, I could have finished this book in 4 or 5 hours. It's quite an easy read. The writing, I haven't talked about the writing a lot because A, I can follow the plot easily, and B, it hasn't changed. It's sometimes it's blocky description of stuff that may or may not evoke the atmosphere, and there are some funny bits here and there. Overall, the writing is very it feels bit player into the big leagues. As I said, this is my I have some ideas of how this book can be better, because I've noticed that in his more critical videos, the author, the drinker, is actually proposing some changes, and it starts to dawn on me that what this book is missing and what could work better. But enough of that, let's get to the synopsis. Because yes, you rather watch a video of somebody talking about a book than reading the book, I guess. Chapter 26 starts with Kuras talking on the phone with the carpenter, his employer, who took him out of prison, who armed his organization and used him as either an assassin of other Taliban or as an informant, so that Horizon could take the glory of capturing terrorists while it was done by a terrorist. And as he's talking to him and arguing with him, he hears a helicopter, he ignores that, which is a huge mistake in every book. If something is in there, it's there for a reason. And this actually gives Carpenter time to say, oh, we've been tracking you and we're out to kill you. And true enough, the helicopter comes into view and a sniper takes him out. And we're back into the base. Ryan Drake is in the blue. He's having, the blues. He's drinking some whiskey. And Sam comes in to talk to him. And let me tell you what's the burning question I've got in this book. Will Ryan stay faithful to the MILF Anya who crossed him, or will he hook up with this young CIA explosive expert? That's what is really interesting me at this moment. That's the one question I have and I'm not sure about, because the rest of it is, it's following this plot line, this general idea of how a book like that is made, or a movie like that, because it feels a lot like a movie. And I guess it would make a decent movie. It would make a decent B-movie action thriller. It's got twists and turns, it's easy to follow. It needs more shootouts, of course, for a movie. But we'll get there towards the end to see what I would say I would do different with this book, because a lot of things don't feel right about it. But yeah, so he tells Sam McKnight about why he left Courage to live. And he says, oh well, we raided his headquarters and I killed his wife. And then when he tried to kill himself, I sawed his fingers and he's gone away. And then I captured him and I said, I'll let you live so you can live with what happened today, and I'll let this torture you. Which is awfully sadistic of our hero. I don't like this Ryan Drake guy. And this is one of the moments he does get a personality, and that's not a good personality to get. So yeah, that's a bit of a thing. So that's pretty much how it ends, with him pondering, and there is this moment with Sam, but they don't hook up. Part 4 begins with, it's called Retribution, and it predictably it starts with the invasion of the US and British forces in October 2001, invading Afghanistan, and there is a total casualties as of 2012. Let's get go on with this, and I'll guess I'll finish my second coffee and get the alcohol here. Alright, I've read 2 more chapters. I'm almost on page 300, and I had to pour me a shot because there are 200 more pages left, and I can't do this sober. In the 2 chapters I read, 31 and 32, in chapter 31, the team is trying to put the evidence together, and they realize that the Stinger that was stolen was escorted by Horizon mercenaries, and their names are stricken out. So they suspect them and Carpenter. And when the team is asking Drake, why do you suspect Carpenter specifically, he has to tell them that Anya told me, and everybody's mad at him because they don't trust Anya. And who would? I mean, okay, thirsty boy Drake probably does, but the rest, but they do agree that they will use Cunningham to help them hack into Horizon and try to find out the truth. And Cunningham grudgingly agrees to that. So that's where we're left, and we're in part 4. I think that's the rest of the book. Part 5 is at page 490, so it's like 200 pages long. Cheers. I'm not sure I can do today. Let's be honest, I'm not sure. Oh yeah, I also forgot something very important. Anya has another flashback to when she was training under Cunningham, and it turns out that Cunningham was training a team of operatives that were former East Bloc citizens back in the 80s to have a deniable force of operatives to operate in areas where Americans shouldn't be during the Cold War, which was apparently a big thing, having deniability, I guess. Alright, some more chapters are gone. So we start chapter 32 with, no, not 32, 33, with Kiger and McKnight interrogating troops who were in the convoy from where the Stinger was stolen, and they know nothing. And then we get to Intercontinental, where Drake takes Frost so they can be safer as he tries to hack Horizon. Then he leaves here and goes to meet Anya because he's a love boy. And then in chapter 34 the plot thickens a lot since we get to see Marcus Kine, deputy director of the CIA, and he's the main bad in the trilogy, I guess. He's the one that was in a conspiracy in the first book, and he made a deal with Drake, and he was like, yes, send Drake to Afghanistan so he may get killed and I get rid of him in deniability. And that's a very important part I want to address when I talk about the book in general, because this is an element that is missing from this book. And he takes a call from Carpenter, who's a guy he knows too well. Carpenter has supplied Kine with, and seriously, you have a guy named Kine that is deputy of the CIA. You just, his name is Kine. You definitely don't trust the guy. Alright? So yeah, he supplied Kane with mercenaries when he tried to take out Shepard and his team back in the first book. So he blackmails Kane to do something about Drake. So that's where we're left, and probably right now we'll go to the meeting between Anya and Drake. Alright, so we have a pretty big chapter with Drake and Anya meeting. I need this. And it's all about Anya. Something I do like about this book is how Will Jordan often mentions landmarks of Afghanistan and uses the Soviet wreckage or the Soviet buildings as a way to remind us of the long bloody history of this country. And that's what I say when he goes into details, and sometimes they build ambience. So here, Anya and Drake meet by an Olympic pool that was made by the Soviets but was never put into use, and it was only used by the Taliban to throw people into the empty pool to kill them. So now that's a tourist spot in Kabul. And they talk about Mitchell, and Anya informs Drake that I arranged for Mitchell to come here and dig up some dirt on Carpenter, because Carpenter was basically he had created a special force team made of Soviet defectors like herself or Luka, her father. There was a moment when one of the candidates in the 80s opened up to her, Luka, and they were in Afghanistan in the 80s, and then they were betrayed. Anya was captured, then she was released, and she was informed that Luka betrayed the team, so she had to kill him in order to get back into the team, and that's what she did. But she later, in the Russian prison she was in, learned that Carpenter did it, and she started going after him. However, Carpenter is behind walls. He's well protected, so she had to dig in for him to get to him. And Mitchell stumbled on something very big, and that's where he died. Drake has yet to realize that he should search Safe House 4 for the notes that Mitchell kept, and I guess it will take some time. Instead, he relies on Frost hacking into Horizon, and that's how Anya lives. And that was a twist I was not expecting, to be honest, and I'm not sure how I feel about this because a lot of things. I think that this book has one main problem. I'm just waiting to see where it goes because I have identified what I believe is the issue with the book, and that issue is probably the protagonist. But enough of that, let's keep on reading and soldiering through like good soldiers. While this happens, we're in chapter 36, and Crawford receives a phone call from Kine and is ordered to shut down Drake's operation, so he arrests Kiger and McKnight, and Kiger tries to resist, but it's futile. Meanwhile, Kira is on her hotel. She managed to hack into the systems of Horizon, and then somebody breaks into her room. It's two men. She fights back, but she's captured. She's thrown into the laundry chute of the hotel, and that's how she's abducted by Horizon. And that's the chapter, and I think the stakes are going up at this moment, and yeah, we're on page 325, so I think that should be we're around the Dark Night of the Soul, where everything seems lost, but Drake has to get his shit together and go and deal with them. That's another shot, and it's because of chapter 38, which is 20 pages long. And you probably think, are you a bit obsessed with size? And my answer to this is yes, I'm a man. In chapter 37, Drake receives a text message from Frost telling him to come to the hotel. And meanwhile, Kiger is watching CNN and learns that Kurash was taken out by ISAF. In chapter 38 though, Drake enters the hotel that Frost is in and gets the elevator, and also two cameramen enter the elevator with him. And this is kind of a nice scene because there's this rising tension as Drake slowly realizes that they're not real cameramen, they're mercenaries. And this is when the mercenaries pounce, and one of them tries to taser, or the bigger one with the camera is trying to taser Drake. They're the same people who captured Frost, because one of them has stains, what Drake assumes to be sweat stains, but it's actually the coffee, because Frost threw a coffee pot on the man who tried to capture her. And Drake reacts, he manages to tase the other man, then he goes fighting man to man with the bigger man, manages to take him out, and when he does so, he's shot by the other man who has just recovered from the taser hit. So Drake grabs the camera and smashes his head in with it. It's a cool action scene. And then he shoots the other man with the pistol, and he's at a point where he has to escape somehow because he realizes that he's in deep shit. So he opts to go to the roof, and since he is unable to jump off the roof like Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible, he goes down and gets to Frost's room, and then he realizes she's taken. So he rushes out of the hotel. He calls back to McKnight. Only Crawford answers and tells him to come back to the base. So he realizes that he's screwed and he has to go rogue. So he calls Cunningham, telling him that we're burned, let's meet and organize. and there is a good chance that Cunningham burned him. So that's an interesting thing to keep in the back of my head. So this is the point where Drake goes rogue, and I was assuming it will be the second half of the book, but no, it's the third act, the final 30% of the book, that he has to go rogue. He has to save Frost, who is captured, and he has to go against the big baddie. So yeah, I assume it'll be a Storm the Castle. If you wonder what is this terminology I'm talking about, there is a script writing book called Saves the Cat, which has some bits about how to write a script or a story. And this book is mostly foggy, doesn't manage to get everything right. Actually, I think it misses a couple of the early bits, which is not great actually. It's one of the issues of this book. But yes, it's pretty much following the formula to a T. And oh yeah, Drake was shot, right? So he was shot, but he had a Kevlar vest, so the bullet didn't go through his body, but still he has some broken ribs and his skin is bleeding. And he managed to escape the hotel by pretending to be an annoyed businessman talking on the phone, and he knows he's traced, so he has removed the battery. Yeah, that's how it goes. And why I complained that this is 20 pages long. I'm used to much shorter chapters in this book, and this one is action-packed but goes too long. And if it was split into 3 or 4 sub-chapters, like the hotel, the mercenaries pounce, end chapter, next chapter, fighting the elevator, next chapter, Drake goes to the roof and until he realizes he's burned, then another chapter he leaves the hotel, it would have been much easier to follow. But the way it was done here, it felt overlong. And you don't want your exciting action scene feels this way. I could feel it dragging as the pages were going on, and that's not good for the pacing. You don't slow the pace on an exciting scene, and I don't know how or why the editor let this skip this one. Why they didn't say, well, chop the chapter in the smaller ones. But yeah, let's get going. I had to get off the computer for a while because I had other things going on, and I've gotten to chapter 45, page 386, and it finally dawned on Drake that there are evidence hidden in Safe House 4. But how we get there? In chapter 39, Carpenter makes a press briefing to announce that Kuras is dead. Anya is watching and is pissed. In chapter 40, McKnight and Keegan convince Crawford to help them find Ryan before he is killed by the police or by anyone else looking for him. Carpenter learns that Drake escaped and has a lot of his men go out in patrols and try to find him. Chapter 41. Drake is injured and he patches himself up any way he can, any way he is able to, before going to meet Cunningham. Chapter 42. Crawford, Keegan and McKnight discover that Kira was abducted, and they look for Drake all over, and that's it. Chapter 43. Chapter 43. We have another flashback to Anya's training, and then she's outside the headquarters of Horizon, and she's stalking the building. Now that everyone is out there looking for Drake, she has an opportunity to go in there. Drake calls her and she tells him to fuck off because he's baggage to her, and yeah, she feels pains, of course. She feels in pain about it, of course, because she has feelings for Drake, I guess. They have a complicated relationship, both of them. And finally, in chapter 44, Cunningham and Drake meet. They have a tense conversation, and that's where it dawns to Drake that yes, evidence are in Safe House 4. So at least he's going somewhere. Chapter 45 starts with Crawford and McKnight. Let's see where this goes. Oh yes, and Kira, of course, somewhere in this part is being tortured by Carpenter, who is putting a cloth on her face and pouring water in it to make her feel like she's drowning, because he's such a nice guy. In chapter 45, Keegan does find how Kira was abducted, and he leaves McKnight to look up the evidence for the truck that took her away. Meanwhile, Anya is trying to infiltrate Horizon's headquarters, and this is what she does. She dresses up as an American journalist. She's in a Toyota 4x4. She smears whiskey all over herself, and she rams one of Horizon's military vehicles. She pretends to be drunk and abusive, and she's taken in by the soldiers, the mercenaries who just want to evade any problems, and they're getting her into one of their holding cells until she sobers up. So yeah, I mean, Anya is the more interesting character in this book. That's a lot of issues. Yeah, we'll talk about in the end, right? About how to fix this book, I guess, or what could have been done differently. Alright, I believe this will be the last video for the day. I'm on page 404, and for the past 2 chapters, Drake and Cunningham have broken into Safe House 4. Meanwhile, Keegan and Crawford have found the traces of Drake. They found the clothes he used to wear where he took care of his injury, and they have found the traces, so they're following him. And yeah, that's pretty much it. You know what, I have to go, so that means that I have to make a video on 3rd day of reading it. I guess tomorrow, it'll be a Monday, so I should probably get to it after work. I'll have to go out soon, so yeah, I won't be able to finish this video. So whatever, I have 100 pages left. I think I've taken 4 or 5 shots throughout this book in 2 days, and yeah, it's okay.